Can you tell me how you made the bulalo?
Bulalo, we have to boil first the beef
Yeah,
for about 30 minutes.
30 minutes, okay.
And then put onion, one whole onion,
Okay,
and
one whole onion.
then let it, simmer or boil for about another 20 minutes.
20 more minutes, okay.
So when the meat is tender,
Mm-hmm.
you can put the beans and cabbage.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And put some the whole pepper, what's called peppercorn.
Peppercorn, okay.
A little bit, just about 20 pieces of that.
Oh yeah,
And that's it.
that's all.
Yeah, and the salt, the salt. Altogether it will be about 80 minutes.
80.
Yeah.
Is this from, this is old Filipino dish, right?
Yeah.
Where did you learn to cook?
Oh, for my mother.
Your mom? Is this all over the Philippines, or is it only in the southern part?
The whole, the Philippines.
Yeah, that's common.
But there are different kinds of vegetable that they put.
I see.
Only in this in Manila.
Yeah,
The style in Manila.
I see.
Yeah. They have different vegetable they put.
Okay.
In southern part or
I see.
So after the feast that my uncle put together for my family, we just had to take a walk. At least I had to take a walk because I was just too full from everything he gave us. And I try to practice that Japanese saying, hara hachibu, where you just stop when you're 8/10 full. But that day, I think I got to 10/10 full. But I still took a walk. I think the Italians have it great because after dinner, they usually have this ritual of walking outside. You're getting all dressed up, looking your best, and then walking outside and seeing your neighbors, seeing the city. And I think it's a good practice because after you eat a large meal, the tendency is, no matter if it's high protein, high carbohydrates, or high fat, the tendency is that you'll have a high insulin secretion, and with that insulin secretion, usually in about 30 to 90 minutes, you'll start to get sleepy. So if you can offset that with a brisk walk, going outside, seeing the light, I think it'll neutralize that insulin dump that you'll probably feel. It's healthy versus going on the couch, watching TV, and kind of vegetating. Lying down after eating is not healthy because it makes reflux a big problem. But just with regards to bone broth. Now, the big hype today is bone broth. And it seems to be a cool thing. It's certainly, if you look at some blogs or some recipes, you'll see people that boil the bone and the contents around the bone, which would be the ligaments, the tendons, and the muscle. They boil them for 24 to 72 hours sometimes. And the idea would be the longer you boil something, the more the protein will break down. And if you have solid material like muscle, tendon, and ligament, it'll hopefully soften up into a liquid state or a semi-solid state. That's where it turns into a gelatin. And I think that's where people want to take advantage. The bone broth or the bulalo that we had was really just good. It tasted great. There were some vegetables in it. I'm a semi-vegetarian, so I didn't really have the meat. I just had the soup and the veggies. My family took advantage of the meat, and it was great either way, which is how, if you're a semi-vegetarian, how you can approach bone broth. I think if we use it for that gelatin or the taste, you still win. If you're doing it just for the taste and trying to make it a little bit exciting, good. Use it with your grain, your rice, or just have it as a soup. In New York, there are some places where you walk up and they have it prepared almost like a hot cup of coffee. Now, here's the thing though. If the big buzzword is bone broth, and you're taking in bone broth for its proline, glycine, its gelatin, its chondroitin, all those great things that you boil down off of the bone, even in the bone marrow, if you're taking it for all those things, those building blocks to, say, heal and seal the gut if you have leaky gut, or just to give yourself some essential amino acids, that's cool. But if you bookend your day with bad diets in the morning and bad dinner at night, what's the use? So that's why I have all this stuff out. No matter what, even if you just go for bone, this is duck neck. duck neck obviously doesn't look appetizing because it's the neck of a duck, but I think the objective of the way cultures got down to boiling bone is because you're just being very useful with the carcass. In hunter-gatherer situations, I assume that after you're finished with eating the meat, using the flesh for shelter, and then using bone, you can boil the bone and still have soup out of it. You can give the bone, break it up, and give it to your animals. So usually in America, we throw away all those things that look nasty, like a fish head, a chicken leg, a chicken foot, or a duck neck, even oxtail. But if you look at some of the oldest cultures in the world, including the Philippines, we have dishes that are strictly made from bone. And again, there's grandma ways that have been inherited and passed on down the line on how to prep this stuff. But if you're looking at the science of how to use this stuff, it is fine. I think if you don't cook, and I used to be a good cook, I've kind of fallen out of grace. That's why I sometimes buy the prepped stuff. But I'm very choosy with where I buy. If you don't cook, you can always buy. If you don't have a place around you that prepares food, then you go for that bone broth powder. And it's a little pricey, but sometimes it'll have the things that you need in it. And again, if you have a very well-balanced nutrition practice, good to add in the powder. If you look at it, the protein content is high. I don't know if I'd use the bone broth powder just for a post-exercise protein hit. I'd probably spread it out or use it properly. The GAPS diet, that's the Gut and Psychology Syndrome diet by Dr. Campbell from the UK. She talks about healing and sealing the gut in case you have an irritable bowel syndrome issue, and I think that's one of the great beauties of using the bone broth, whether it's a whole food or the bone broth in a powder form, is to help the leaky gut problem seal up and reverse. If you don't have leaky gut, you just want to get it into your diet as a supplement to a mostly whole food plant-based practice, I think that's fine. If you can learn eventually to cook, that'd be even better. Again, it depends on if grandma is still around, if grandma or mom knew how to cook, and if you have the patience to learn. You have to go back to schooling, and you have to go back to learning and probably messing up a couple dishes, but that's the way we learn this stuff, is we practice and we try to refine over and over again. There's a lot of great, if you have the Food Network, you can kind of practice if you don't have anybody to teach you. You can read on the internet. So the objective is, shortcuts are fine. Powder would be okay. Make sure you have a balanced diet the rest of the day. Even if you're fasting, and I just did a video on fasting, even if you're fasting and you're decreasing the total volume of your macronutrients or your meals per day, you can still have a big dinner and still have a big breakfast, or space them out by 12 to 16 hours. And again, it might be useful, since you can't put that much volume into those ends, that bookend. It might be useful to do the protein powder because you can have it in a very concise and concentrated amount versus the whole food approach. So here's the bottom line. If you're using bone broth, it's okay if you have leaky gut syndrome or a problem with absorption issues. And it's a great protein. It's a great chondroitin sulfate is great for joint problems and arthritis. The glycine I talked about there, is gelatin, is also good as a building block if you have an autoimmune issue or if you're lacking a little nutrient here and there. So it's good to take advantage of. But again, it's a supplement. Just like apple cider vinegar. There was a big buzz on apple cider vinegar about 5 years ago, and everybody was doing it. But if you don't take 2.7 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar in water a day, then it's not doing you justice. And then if you eat crappy food and then you still take the apple cider vinegar or the bone broth, you're not going to neutralize your bad diet with these hits of supplement. You have to have them as maybe a launching pad to get into a healthier nutrition practice while you're learning, or you have to at least have a coach teach you about what to eat. If you have to teach yourself, that's okay. Just have a dedicated amount of time and a little bit of patience, because it will take some time to learn how to cook, to find out what your taste is, to be useful or comfortable with turning up or turning down the flame on the grill or on the oven. This all takes practice. So be patient with yourself. It's okay to supplement if you're just starting out. But again, in the long run, save money. And it really is cheaper if you cook the whole food plant-based, hopefully mostly plant-based approach. But again, everybody's a little different with their planning. Everybody has to take care of a family, or take care of budgeting, or take care of the flavors that you're used to. So start out with the amount of time first. Get your resources, get your references, read all the time, and practice. And hopefully it's not going to just be bone broth. It's going to be everything that you eat will be healing with food. Hippocrates said, "Let food be thy medicine." That's the way that I think we should be doing it. But unfortunately, if you're just relying on your doctor or your medical team to kind of put a Band-Aid on your medical disease with prescriptions, you're going to have to seek out your own health coach and or nutrition stylist to kind of put together more and more information for you to pick up, so that hopefully in the long run, not only will you be healthier and live like you and feel like you did when you were 20, but you'll also be able to cook within a second, or you'll also be able to cook within 5 minutes of getting home, not spend too much time in the prep, and then be comfortable with using food as medicine.